3FM KWRZ Canyonville and 1490 AM KSKR Roseburg. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
Joey's just interested in giving me another heartbreak, another heart attack, another day where I'm considering jumping off my balcony. He's wearing the grass is damn green in Eugene shirt again. Joey, you did not learn.
I don't care about your health.
Joey just might as well jump off the balcony.
Might as well.
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show here in the Score Sports Closet along with Knight Jarecki. No, he's still here. I do care about his health at least enough.
He didn't wear the grass is damn green in Eugene shirt to the Ohio State game. Although if he did, the game probably would have ended differently. Will Howard would have slid about a second and a half earlier, and you would have found me at the 50-yard line and in the stands. It was I was on the field at the Oregon-Ohio State game, and for the last 2 minutes when I was on the field, somebody threw a beer can on me, or a beer cup of beer on me. That would have been me jumping off the balcony, but landing right next to you in the stands.
I don't need Jarecki all over me here. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. This show has been in progress since Sunday? Probably. We've been texting back and forth. We've seen each other every day in the office.
It was even Saturday we were texting back and forth.
It's been
Sunday
Sunday
we were texting, before my phone died. And then on Monday it was we got here in the first 2 hours of work. We really didn't work. We just talked about the game.
Oh, the glorious thing is this is our work. We get to talk sports, and we get to welcome you into the broadcast and do it here with us. I'm Joey Keeran along with Knight Jarecki. We are the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, hanging out, talking ball, having a good time. It's all presented by BTB Moving, providing labor services for your moving needs. Veteran-owned, affordable, dependable, efficient, and careful. They've got senior and veteran discounts available. Book now at 541-315-0122 and find them on Facebook at BTB Moving. Well, of course, we want to hear from you if you've got thoughts about last week's big win for the Oregon Ducks over Ohio State. That is going to be a large portion of some of what we discuss here today, or at least the discussion will start there, and we'll continue to try and move it forward as we get ready for tonight's Oregon Duck football game. We also saw Oregon State. Knight. I went home. My phone was, my phones didn't lose their battery, but I just, at Autzen Stadium on Saturday, trying to get things to load on my phone was a chore. It's always tough.
It's always the worst.
Yeah.
Honestly, the way that I learned about the Oregon State game was we were all in the press conference room waiting for Dan to come out, and somebody just went, Giovanni threw 4 picks, and everybody, you just hear the whispers in the press room.
Oh, my goodness.
Nobody could believe it. And honestly, we're going to have Ryan Harlan.
Thank you. That's where we were getting to. Yeah.
He's a reporter for Oregon State football, Beaver's Edge, up there in Corvallis. Really good person to talk to about Oregon State. But in hockey, right, there's something called the deserve a win meter. It basically means that you outplayed the other team, but you lost the game. That's what it feels like for Oregon State.
We'll look at the numbers, and you're completely correct, but 4 turnovers is going to kill you.
Yep.
And I found the final score on that one after I left Autzen Stadium for that Duck game, and I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. It was completely unexpected. So where do things stand with Oregon State football at 4-2 on the season? Not a bad record, but probably not where people expected this team would be at this point in the season. We'll talk with Ryan Harlan, as you mentioned, from BeaversEdge.com. He's going to be coming up at 1 o'clock on the show to give us the lowdown of what's going on in Corvallis, how things are feeling with the fan base, and give us some ideas of just what is happening with Oregon State football right now. And we'll talk about the Beavers coming up in hour number 2 quite a bit there. We will take a look at the games that are going on. Another big weekend in college football, another big weekend in high school football. We'll take a look at what's coming up for our local teams around the Umpqua Basin when it comes to Friday Night Lights tonight. We got some big matchups, and we're getting down final 3 games of the regular season for most teams, and it's going to be big. There's a lot of teams that I think we're going to have a good number of teams from the Umpqua Basin reaching the postseason this year. So a ton to get to. If you want to be on the program with us here today, give us a call at 541-673-5551. That's 673-5551. And later on in the program, if you give us a call, you could win
tickets.
There we go.
Yeah.
Tell them what they've won, Knight.
You can win 2 tickets to Oregon State versus UNLV this Saturday. This is a 5-1 UNLV team. This is going to be a game that you want to go to. Homecoming game for Oregon State. Be there or be square. Call in today and win some tickets.
Oh, boy. Travel and accommodations are not included. But yeah, we will be giving away tickets to go see Oregon State and UNLV tomorrow at Research Stadium. So we'll give you an opportunity to call in and win later on in the program. But thoughts on Ducks over Ohio State, now up to number 2 in the latest AP poll. Thoughts on Beavers and their struggles against Nevada last week and what the future might hold for both of those programs. We'd love to hear from you. You can also chime in on the high school sports landscape. What are games are you going to? What are you excited about with the teams looking to make that push to the postseason? We'd love to hear from you. You can also chime in with us. The show is streaming live on our YouTube channel. Search 1490 The Score on YouTube, and you'll find us there. That's where the live stream is going. Hit the subscribe button, and that way you'll know when we go live with another broadcast here on The Score. And you can just, put it on while you're at work on the desktop and listen to the program, and you can chime in on the comment section with us there as well. We'd love to hear from you guys. That's what makes the tailgate fun, is when you got a nice, robust conversation. So, all right, well, as every tailgate show goes, or every tailgate party goes, we like to kick things off by cracking open a cold one and getting the conversation started.
Nothing gets a tailgate party going like a nice cold beverage. So let's crack one open and kick off today's show with our top story.
3rd and 20. Howard, a lot of time coming off. Howard's going to run for it. Time runs out, and that'll do it. Oh, my goodness. Welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon. They storm the field at Autzen.
They always told us this week that they haven't really seen anybody like us. And, when you look at the film from their past games, that's the truth. So, we just went into this game knowing, we are who we are, and they ain't seen us yet, so we gonna give them a show.
The Big Ten's loudest stadium is in Eugene, Oregon. This place was out of its mind last night, and there's some people who are pushing back on this, okay? So I am not going to present myself as the authority on many things, but this I will. Because unlike, I'm pretty sure everyone watching this show, I am blessed enough to have stood on the field for the biggest games in all these environments. And I was there last night. This place is louder than any other venue in the Big Ten.
We've been to a lot of stadiums. This is the loudest stadium I've ever been in. We've been to Buckeyes, Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Texas, TCU. This is the loudest place.
Well, that was the broadcast call of the final play of Oregon winning over Ohio State 32-31. That's from NBC. That was Evan Stewart in the postgame talking about how the Ducks went over the top of this Ohio State defense, recording more explosive plays than any team had prior this season. It was Josh Pate from the Josh Pate football show. I don't remember the full. Do you know this full title of his new show? Because it used to be Late Kick with Josh Pate, but I don't think it's what they call it anymore.
I think it's still Late Kick with Josh Pate.
Either way, it was Josh Pate there talking. He was at the game talking about how loud Autzen was, and that was an Ohio State fan that I talked to after the game. He was sitting in the row right in front of us. He might have thought it was loud because I was practically yelling at the back of his head all game long. But he was from Seattle but went to Ohio State. He's an Ohio State alum, goes to a lot of games. He's been to all the big Big Ten stadiums and some of the other big ones around the country. And he said this was the loudest place he's ever been.
It's just now Josh Pate's college football show.
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I thought, is that it was Josh
When
Pate.
did that rebrand happen?
I don't know. I don't know if it's when he got more involved with CBS Sports HQ or what, but I realized that this weekend because I watched a lot of Josh Pate and his reaction to Oregon's win over Ohio State.
Were you a big Josh Pate fan before this weekend?
I mean, I knew of him. I didn't tune in regularly, but I knew of him, and I've listened to his show on occasion.
He's great.
Yeah.
He is really, really good.
Yeah, he is. But so those are the clips you hear there. As you walk away from Autzen Stadium on Saturday night, what were your feelings? I'll get to my feelings in a second, but what were your feelings walking away, your thoughts walking away from Autzen Stadium?
To summarize how I felt leaving that game in one word, it would be relief. Same as Dan Lanning.
Totally.
Because it just felt like it was the most stressful game I've watched in quite some time. It could have gone either way. Takeaways, Oregon was explosive. We brought it up last week. Is Oregon going to be able to make a lot of explosive plays against an Ohio State team that had not allowed a play of 30-plus yards in the passing game?
What's the answer to that question?
Yes!
Easy there, buddy.
Yeah, sorry. But yes, the answer is yes. Oregon did it.
Yes, they did.
And I thought that they ran the ball really well. I thought that the defense was really aggressive, especially at the start of that game. The crowd was insane. Like, by far the best crowd I've seen at Autzen Stadium. Everything clicked for Oregon. No mistakes. It felt like a long time coming. It felt like this was the type of game that Oregon lost in years past.
Yeah. Against Washington last year twice.
It felt like there's always a game where Oregon just lost it. Whether it be Oregon State 2 years ago, Washington last year, it was like, what is that? Oregon won a close game against a good team? What?
Yeah.
This felt too good to be true. And it kind of got gifted to him. I mean, Will Howard, slid late. If he slides a little bit earlier, they have a shot for a field goal.
Yeah, totally. If he did, I look this up while I'm talking here. Where did he, and maybe you just know off the top of the head, where did his slide end? What yard line would it have put? And if he had slid maybe 2 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards earlier to try and get down in time to call that timeout, how long of a field goal would they have had?
They were already kind of in field goal range.
So I was watching it back to get that clip at the end of the game, and they needed about 10 to 13 yards to get to the edge of their field goal kicker's range.
Well, he hadn't kicked a field goal over 50 yards, but at the same time...
That's what they said they were talking about it on the broadcast, where they needed the ball to get, and it was about 10 to 13 yards is what they felt.
In my opinion, which, I'm watching it now, and the ball was at the 38-yard line when they snapped the ball.
On that final play. After the penalty. So the 38-yard line, you add 7, that's 40. I mean, that's a 55-yarder.
It is a 55-yarder. By the time that he starts his slide, he's at the 29-yard line.
So now you're looking at a 46-yarder.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
But if he slides...
You said he was at the 20... Or you said he was at the...
They were at the...
29-yard line when he slid?
Yeah, and they were at the 38-yard line.
So they said 28-29 is about what the edge of his range was. So,
okay.
If he had gotten down... But, if he slides sooner...
But if he slides at 2 seconds... it's going to be about the 34-yard line.
So you're looking at a 51-yarder. And I don't think that they... I think what you go back and you wish you could have done is that he slides sooner and you get one chance to throw to the end zone. One more chance to throw to the end zone.
You would take the shot at that point? You would throw the ball instead of kick a 51-yarder?
Or that. I mean, I guess
at the end of the day, you just
it's a coin flip either way.
You just need points. You're only down by 1 point. In my opinion, your kicker's been all right, and sure, he hasn't kicked one over 50, but you got to put him in that situation. You got to give him a shot. You'd rather miss a field goal than to slide and have the time go away.
Oh, totally, totally. A 51-yard, you're obviously at extreme range there. I just almost think that if you try to throw the ball to the end zone, you have the possibility of, one, it happening, catching a touchdown for the win. You've got a chance of a defensive penalty that buys you yet another play, which could also get you closer for a much easier field goal. So, I mean, a lot of what-ifs, and obviously that's the game of football. I walked away from Autzen Stadium. You mentioned relief. Yeah, there was that. My word would be elated. Like, no matter what happened in that game, I think I was going to be walking away from Autzen Stadium with a fairly good feeling in my stomach, just because we went into that one. I mean, all the talking head experts, quote unquote, out there seem to not know what to exactly expect from this game, with most people leaning towards Ohio State. You and I talked last week. Neither of us really knew what to expect in that matchup going into it. And Oregon proved something to me that they can hang with the elites in college football. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to walk away from that saying that Ohio State somehow was proven to be like a pretender. That you walk away from that game and go, wow, Ohio State lost. They're not the team we thought they were. They're not among the national championship contenders. No, I think the conversation you have is, wow, Oregon proved to me they truly do belong to be in that conversation for a national title contender. And so I walked away elated knowing that, holy crap, the team I was there that I got to be a fan for this week, that I got to root my guts out for, is actually a pretty decent team.
Yeah. No, and I think the difference is, like, we talked about the deserve or win meter earlier. Like, it could have gone either way.
Oh, totally.
It wasn't like one team dominated. Like, it was exactly what it lived up to. We were talking about it last week, how it felt like these two rosters were just so similar in the way that they were built and the offensive weapons, whether it be the wide receivers, the running backs, how deep that position is. You have a transfer quarterback coming in from the Big 12, and it just felt like it was two evenly matched teams. Yeah. Going jab for jab, and at the end of the day, Oregon won by 1 point. It was an amazing game, absolute masterpiece. One of the best games I've ever watched. Not even just because I'm a fan of the Oregon Ducks, not because I'm an alum of the University of Oregon, but it was just
a great football game.
It was a phenomenal football game. It had everything in that game, and it came down to the wire. And I think you're right. Like, if Oregon would have lost this game, you probably walk away thinking, well, you know, we've seen Oregon lose close games before, but they're right there. They're in it. And they finally got over the hump. And that's why I think it's more relief than to be elated in that moment, just because it felt like for years, Oregon had been waiting for a game like that to go their way, and it finally did.
It did indeed. You mentioned a great football game. Most watched primetime Big Ten Conference game since 2008. In that one there, it peaked at like 13 million and averaged 10.2 million people watching in that game.
Dude, I was 6.
Dude, I was 3 years out of college. Yeah, it's been a while. That's how big that game was. And it was fantastic. I want to get your impression on a few other things from that matchup. But first I want to ask you, because you went back and rewatched the game. Yeah. I never did get a chance to go do that. I wanted to, but I didn't. What did you think of the NBC broadcast? Because I don't feel like Oregon's really been on NBC that often. So I don't feel like I've necessarily been involved in watching an Oregon game on NBC that much. Was the broadcast itself, did you pay attention to kind of the broadcast quality?
I think NBC does a really good job. And I watched a lot of Notre Dame games growing up. And so I like the product that NBC puts out there, but I really like Noah Eagle. I think he's turning into a really, really good broadcaster. He's sounding a lot more like his dad. A lot more like his dad, especially that final call. It just sounded like I was listening to Ian Eagle, but no, I really thought they did a good job. I thought they did a good job highlighting a lot of the big points. Not over storytelling, like it wasn't like some of those broadcasts we've watched where it's like every play it's like, did you know that Bryce Betcher also plays baseball?
Right. They get into their storylines a little too deep.
They got into it early, and they did a good job just letting the game tell the story.
Good.
I really like that.
Nice. Awesome. This was a tweet I bookmarked, and I saw a lot of this kind of comments. I couldn't explain Autzen Stadium to someone who's never been here. My ears are ringing. Everything is ringing. Comment here on the YouTube stream here today. Somebody there at the game. The fans next to us brought earplugs, better prepared than we were. I actually thought about that, but my ears are already shot, so I was like, what the heck?
I don't know if you did it too, but like there was like some points in that game where I was like that Ohio State fan where I actually like went like that and like closed my ears for a second because it was just so loud that it was like,
my hands were in front of my face, just funneling everything right towards the field, right down to Rich Brooks Field at Autzen Stadium.
I didn't have that opportunity. Yeah. I was on the press box.
Well, it's cool to hear that it was loud up there because like when you're in the middle of a group of cheering people, like you just kind of recognize that it's loud. You don't necessarily get a true understanding of how loud it is. And you were down on the field at the end of the game, and that was probably the loudest portion of that game. It set a record for most attendance, 60,129, and they always have the decibel meter thing there when they want you to get loud. Apparently, it hit 126.3 towards the end there.
I have a take on this.
Okay, I'm curious if it's the same because I see those. I'm always appreciative of them, but I
don't believe the ones that they put on the big screen.
I don't either.
I don't because like
is it just an attempt to get us to be louder?
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Because I went to a Raiders game like the other week in Las Vegas and they had that up there, and I'm telling you like. It was not louder than like earlier points in the game, but on the like the meter, it said it like got up to like 126, and I was like, it was way louder earlier, and you were saying it was like 123. Like I think those are pre-made videos.
I kind of wonder.
Like that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Like somebody had like a decibel meter in there, and that's how they get those accurate. Reads. I believe that. Like that is science. That is fact.
But the scoreboard,
I don't believe that.
Yeah, I'm always questioning.
I'm very
those.
hesitant.
But it was loud. But you were down on the field. I was just, in those final moments. They let the media get down on the field. You were there with a credential this week. You were down there on the sideline getting hit by beer. But other than that, how was the field level at Autzen during the closing moments?
Oh my gosh, it was so loud. I forget who it was. I think it was Umpqua that got that first down to put Ohio State basically in the field goal range. And when that happened, it got quiet. And I just remember looking around and the fans just kind of having like a face of like that's stoic, like just very like, what just happened? Oh no. Like we've seen this movie before. And then the penalty happens, and then everybody gets back into it, and it was wild. And I think like, me and a lot of Ohio State fans, when Will Howard slid, thought there was going to be a second on the clock. Yeah. That they were going to have that opportunity. Because as soon as the game's over, Howard slides, the media and some of the team starts running onto the field. And at that moment, I'm like running a little bit, taking video, taking in the moment, trying to capture everything. And I see the officials, like the referees, start to shuffle like the Ohio State players back to the sideline, it looked like. And like there was part of me that was like, oh my God, are they going to clear the field right now and review this play?
God, I don't even know how you would do it.
Right? Because it felt like everybody was coming onto the field, but like there's been games like that where fans have come onto the field and they have to clear everybody and review the play. So that in the back of my mind, I was like, oh my God, they're going to review this and like everybody's going to have to clear the field. And then it just never happened. It never did. Next thing you know, I see the duck getting lifted up and everybody's like celebrating and running. Like the students are running on the field. Joey, I went to the school at the University of Oregon for 4 years. Not once did the students storm the field.
Huh.
That was the first time they had stormed the field since 2019 versus Washington State, where they kicked the field goal at the end.
Huh. Interesting.
I had never experienced something like that. I'd never been in a crowd storm.
Yeah, I have not experienced that.
And my gosh, a lot of shoving.
Yeah, I could imagine.
A lot of people.
A lot of celebrating.
Elated. Several members of the baseball team who I'm friends with because broadcasting Springfield Drifters, knowing them through Summer League, they had a few beverages, and I
think I was in the group of people leaving the stadium with somebody that it must be on Ducks baseball because they were wearing an Oregon Duck baseball helmet.
Okay,
that looked legit.
No, So you can buy those at the equipment sales.
Oh, okay.
So I own a Oregon Duck baseball helmet from the equipment sales at the end of the year. So each year they do like a warehouse sale at the Mashofsky Center where you can buy like different equipment and stuff like that.
Stuff that's aged out.
I'm actually surprised they let that person into the game with them because I feel like a baseball helmet would be like considered like a weapon. Like you could definitely
you could do some damage
with that. But no, it was a great feeling. I think one of the funnier parts was I just saw like Mark Wazakowski, like again the baseball coach, out on the field, and he was like filming just like anybody else. Like
everybody was a fan.
Everybody was a fan.
I mean, even Dan Lanning. I mean, he was wearing the necklace. He was chest bumping with everybody. He was fired up. It was great. Yeah. It was a fantastic environment.
Trying to get off the field, though,
I could imagine,
was hard.
Like, trying to get out of the stadium was not easy.
Yeah, well, trying to get to the press conference was hard. And, like, you know, like me and, like, a group of, like, 5 to 6 media members were, like, you know, close in the middle of the field trying to get out, and players are, like, shoving us, like, get out of the way, get out of the way. We're like, we're trying to go to the same place as you.
We're going the same way you are, man. Oh, my goodness.
But, man,
what a game.
What a game.
What a game it was.
What a game.
We will break down some more of our thoughts on that. I've got some other things that just stood out to me watching it with somewhat of an analytical eye. It was hard not to get too just swept up in the emotion of being a fan in the stands. And that was the great part about that game. I did get, for the first time in a long time, I felt like a fan and got to be a fan rather than watching it as a media member. We talked about this with Joey Mack last week. Like, take a moment to enjoy what you're witnessing. And it was a great football game. And you can be there working and get just swept up with the fact of you got to come up with a story, you got to come up with questions for the post game, trying to remember all the big moments that happened in that game and break down why things went a certain way. And you just kind of forget to take in the whole big moment of the event. So I did get a chance. You know, I kind of had some things that stuck in my head. I wrote down a lot of notes afterwards. We'll cover some of that. And, of course, we've got to hit on kind of what ended up being a pretty big topic from that game that happened in the final 10 seconds of the contest. We'll get to that. We'll get to some other recap from the game and talk about where things are going forward for the Oregon Ducks from here. And don't forget, we're talking Oregon State Beavers in hour number 2 with Ryan Harlan from BeaversEdge.com. Beavers with a tough loss against Nevada last week. What's the status of OSU football as they get ready to host UNLV? We also have tickets to give away later on in the program for that Oregon State football game, so stay tuned for that. Give us a call at 541-673-5551 to share your thoughts on Oregon Ducks football. We'd love to hear from you, or find us on our YouTube channel, 1490 The Score, and hit us up in the comments section there. I want to remind you folks that it is time for Share Your Shot, the photo contest presented by Waldron's Outdoor Sports, Big O Tires, and Best Country, and The Score, and Best Country, our sister station, in on this too. You could win a stunning new rifle from Waldron's Outdoor Sports, plus a $400 gift certificate from Big O Tires. Upload your photo of this year's deer harvest to 541radio.com, or you could drop off a photo at Waldron's Outdoor Sports. It's a photo contest, not a biggest game or rack, so all you got to do is just post a photo of you with your deer harvest this year. Smile and share your shot. It's brought to you by Waldron's Outdoor Sports, Big O Tires, and The Score. It's time now for a sports update with Knight Jarecki.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Jarecki. Well, it's a football Friday with high school and college football coming up tonight. Starting in the prep ranks, the Roseburg Indians are on the road to South Eugene for a showdown with the Axe. Roseburg is looking to end a 3-game skid and jumpstart their push towards the postseason. With 3 games left to play, the Indians are running low on opportunities to improve their resume for the playoffs. Tonight's game begins at 7 p.m. You can tune in for live coverage starting at 6:45 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. You can also watch online at 541radio.com. It's a tight race for a playoff spot at the 3A ranks, and Douglas, Sutherland, and South Umpqua are all right in the thick of it. The Sutherland Bulldogs are up against a tall order tonight as they face off against number 3 Sayus Slum. The contest gets underway at 7 p.m. from Florence. You can tune in for coverage starting at 6:45 on I-101 FM with Dan Bain on the call. The South Umpqua Lancers are hosting Brookings Harbor, and Douglas welcomes in Coquille. Both of those contests also kick off at 7 p.m. In 9-man football, the number 2 Oakland Oakers host number 8 Myrtle Point Pacific, and Glide heads to number 7 Lost River. In 8-man football, number 3 North Douglas hosts Prospect Charter Butte Falls, number 9 Camas Valley heads to Riddle, Young College travels to Chiloquin, and Glendale visits number 4 Cross Point Christian. And finally, in 6-man football, Days Creek looks to upend number 1 Powers, and the Elkton Elks are on the road to number 7 North Lake for a 2 p.m. kickoff tomorrow. Check out the entire schedule and scores online at 541radio.com. In local college sports, the UCC volleyball team hosts Lane in a South Region battle at 6 p.m. And coming up tonight in college football, the number 2 ranked Oregon Ducks head to the Midwest to face off against the Purdue Boilermakers in a Big Ten matchup. That game gets underway at 5 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 3 p.m. on News Radio 93.9 FM and 1240 KQEN. And the Portland Trailblazers finish up the preseason tonight against the Utah Jazz at 7 p.m.
We never have to worry about breaking down because Papa and my dad from Truck Swarm always keep our car in great shape.
That was me, Josh. Truck Swarm and Family Auto is still going strong, and now I'm part of the team with my dad and Papa. We are all committed to keeping your vehicle in tip-top shape spring, summer, or winter.
Schedule your maintenance or repair today and ask about TechNet, warranty, roadside assistance, and other exclusive offers to valued customers. Chuck Swarm Family Auto on Old Highway 99. Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
Recapping games and looking ahead to the weekend, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Illegal substitution. Defense has 12 on defense. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Welcome back here to the Score Sports Closet. I was counting. As that play happened, I was like, that looks like too many men. And they had sent somebody on late. They looked confused. I was sitting there going 1, 2, 3, 5. I'm just terrible at trying to count how many guys are on a field.
And that's you as a media member.
That's where it kicked in.
Being in the stands, because I think the average fan isn't.
Nobody else around me knew it. Like as soon as they snapped the ball, I saw the official on the near side flip the flag out, and I go, "We had 12 men on the field." I was like, "We have 12 men on the field," and then it was an incomplete pass, and everyone around me is celebrating. And of course, I'm not the genius that Dan Lanning and his coaching staff is. So when I saw a penalty flag for 12 men on the field, I thought, "Oh crap, we just gifted them a chance to try and win this game on a field goal." And I was like, I can't say the things I was thinking at that moment, but I'm trying to tell the guys next to me, the guy in front of me that I'd been slapping hands with all game long, we had 12 guys on the field. Oh, crap.
Dude, I had a similar moment to this. Not for this game, but I remember I was at a game. I was at a baseball game, the Padres versus the Rockies in Colorado. And Will Myers had hit for a single, a double, and a home run in the game. And it was like the 6th inning, and me and my dad were like, dude, he is a triple away from the cycle right now. Like, he could hit for the cycle right here. And sure enough, he like hits the ball off the center field wall, and he's racing around going to third. And me and my dad are like losing our mind, like, oh my God, he just hit for the cycle. And nobody, like everyone around us was like, why are they cheering?
What
like,
are these guys getting so excited about?
Why are they so excited about it? Like, it was like, he literally hit for the cycle. And that's like one of those things where, like, you know, if you're really into the sport, and if you're like a media member and you cover the sport a lot, you think about those types of things. You think about the storylines, right? And that's one of those things that you as a media member turned fan have in your mind. The average fan doesn't have.
Well, you know, we're calling a game or whatever. You're analyzing. You know, you're kind of checking everything that's going on out there, and it's like they came out. I saw the confusion on the sideline, which they did on the broadcast as well. They mentioned that some confusion on the defense. Then the ball got snapped, and then the penalty, and I was just like, what do we just called a timeout and we can't get 11 guys on the field? Like, what are we doing here? I was flipping out. Later, come to find out that the speculation was they did it on purpose.
And that's the craziest thing is that, like, I saw it on Twitter right after the game.
Yeah.
And Kyle Clements from the radio station down in Medford, I called him after the game, and we were talking about the game, and he was like, I don't know, Knight. People on Twitter are speculating like Dan did that 12-man on purpose. And I was like, there's no way he did that on purpose.
That was my thought, too, immediately.
And we taled about it on Monday. Like, I came into work, and we were like,
I weren't sure.
There's no way he does that on purpose.
But
they asked him about it in the press conference Monday night, and in the most Dan Lanning way possible, most coach speak possible.
Coach speak.
He avoids directly answering it.
Yeah,
but answering it with his face.
You might have heard. You might have heard those quotes there. He was also on Dan Patrick, which you can hear from 6 to 9 a.m. right here on The Score, Monday through Friday. Tune in for the Dan Patrick Show to get all sorts of great insight into things. They had Dan Lanning on earlier this week, and of course Dan asked him about it. Asking Dan, did you do it on purpose? And well, this was the answer.
What was your interpretation of it, and was it on purpose?
I probably spent too much time on this on Monday, and I know what answers we're looking for here, but I got my dancing shoes on this morning, Dan, so I'm not going to get into great depth on strategy.
Wait, why? I thought it was brilliant coaching.
Well, I mean, I think I've paid attention to a lot of situations like that. I always think about the 49ers-Ravens Super Bowl, right, and the holding penalty at the end of the game to run the clock out. And I think as defensive coaches, you're always trying to find ways to take advantage of the rules that exist. And we have an unbelievable staff. We spend a lot of time on a lot of different situations. And when things are in place, you want to try to be able to take advantage of them. But I've asked my staff, I've asked our players, hey, Ohio State game, that was awesome. We're on a short week. We got Purdue this week. Let's move on to Purdue. So I'm going to challenge myself to do the same thing. But I expected you to ask about it for sure.
So you can read between the lines just as well as we can. They did it on purpose. After all of the comments, I really didn't know. I wanted to watch back. I did watch the video as to find some of these clips here for the show today. I did catch just small snippets of the television broadcast. You can't see the sideline very clearly, but a player gets shoved out onto the field basically at the right before the snap. And so, I wanted to go back and watch and just judge whether or not that person was getting thrown out there because they were confused on whether or not they had 11 guys out there or not, or if it was like, wait, now go, and totally throw things off. And because I'm wondering, this is what I wonder, is if they had just sent 12 guys out there and before the snap, they sent that guy out there and then a second later the snap happens.
Yeah.
If they had sent him out there earlier, would they have gotten penalized and stopped the play before it got started and not waste the time off the clock? I don't know if that's how that works or not.
I think so, yeah, because it's they have to line up. If they line up with 12 people, they'll throw the flag.
Yeah,
beforehand.
so they even knew. Wait until the very last second to where they won't stop the play. They let the play run. They had an overloaded side of the offense with 3 receivers over there. Oregon threw out 4 defenders on that side. They throw the opposite way. It's incomplete. But either way, it wore off 4 vital seconds in that final stretch there. I mean, they obviously knew what they were doing, and they took advantage of it. And I get why Dan doesn't come out and just straightforward admit it, but yeah. Because, I mean, I'm like Dan, take credit, man. That was a brilliant idea.
You don't have to flat out say it.
No, he doesn't, because we all know now. We all know they did that on purpose.
And I think that's the thing, is that they did such a good job making it look like it wasn't on purpose.
No, they did.
You got to give them credit for that.
I wonder how much the players knew. Did they get in the huddle at that timeout and say, look, we're going to get a 12-man penalty here, so just play your defense like normal?
I don't remember them asking any players that in the postgame.
That's a great. I didn't hear any of that. Granted, I listened mainly to the offensive players here before the show today, so I didn't take a listen to. They kind of had a trio of defensive guys. Did you stay for all of the play? You took off after Dan was done, right?
After Dylan,
yeah.
Had to make the trek across the river. That was actually one of the things, right? Is that they had never had this many media members approved for a game, and so they didn't approve parking, and so
you
had to walk across the river.
Poor spoiled media folk.
Yeah, well, that's the first time in my life I've never been given parking for an event that you're covering, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're there to work. You're not there to, like, have fun, and I didn't get a parking pass.
It was packed. We talked
packed.
about that last week.
Yeah.
What was the food line like in the press box with so many people?
Oh, my God. The food line was long.
I could only imagine.
Really good food, though. They did a great job. This week they brought it out. They brought, it was ribs for the press box, potato salad, some rolls, not only just cookies, but also brownies this week. That was a good addition. So that was like before the game, and then at halftime they had not pulled chicken,
pulled pork. Yeah,
pulled pork, really good homemade barbecue sauce, more cookies and brownies. You can see where my priorities at on game day.
We know where the sweets are going to. You're not alone. I do the same thing.
The cookies, you can't resist them.
You can't, and you need to take 3 of them. Otherwise, you might miss out.
I don't know.
Like I said,
know about,
I like sweets, man.
I don't know about three. I can do one at the beginning of the game, and then if I'm feeling up for it, maybe at halftime.
If you wait long enough, you're going to miss out. They're not going to be there anymore.
Apparently, they're not going to be there ananymore because you're getting three at the beginning.
Oh, man. Good. It was a fantastic game. A lot of fun. Breaking down kind of what we saw a little bit as well, other than obviously Autzen is great. One of the things that talking here with you to start, this game goes Oregon's way. If it's at Ohio State, I don't know. I mean, I think Autzen made that much of a difference. But
it does, and that's the thing is that some people may be upset because Josh Pate does a ranking system each week, and it's not necessarily a ranking system. It's more just who would be favored on a neutral field. Mm-hmm. And right now, Ohio State would be favored over Oregon. I think that's fair. Ohio State was favored against Oregon in Autzen Stadium, and Oregon won by 1.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. Could the score have been a little bit different?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Oregon left points on the board.
They left points on the board.
Or off and on, whatever.
The refs also helped out a little bit because there was an
interception that wasn't called.
Yep.
Yeah. So, if these two teams get a chance to meet again, it will be a lot of fun. And after the game, I was saying, to the Ohio State, it's man, I bet we see each other again at some point this season.
I hope we don't.
I would, as a fan, I totally.
Well, not only that, but there's just something about Penn State this year. They get Ohio State at home.
Yeah.
They just had a big win on the road at USC. They're one of 3 teams to go from East Coast to West Coast in the new Big Ten and win.
Yeah.
And to win against a good USC team like that. In an emotional way, come from behind victory. Look out for the Nittany Lions. I think a lot of people are writing them off. There's a reason why Penn State's number 3 in the country right now.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I kept telling people at the time, hey, I think we're going to see you again. But then went back and saw the results of the other games that went on that day and looked at the standings in the Big Ten. And I mean, there's 3 undefeated teams. Penn State, one of them. Indiana is in there as well. I mean, who knows? I don't expect it.
I'm sorry, but
I don't expect it.
As much as I love Indiana and Rourke as their QB, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't expect it, but
dude, Indiana,
Ohio State's not just guaranteed to get back to that championship
100%.
game.
And I think Indiana plays Ohio State, right? Let's see, Indiana's remaining schedule. It's actually favorable for the Hoosiers. They don't have a difficult schedule, really. They just have back-to-back weeks where they play Michigan at home and then at Ohio State.
Okay. So, I mean, going there, that's tough.
The next 3 weeks, Indiana's home this week against Nebraska. Tough game. If they win, they're 6-0 at home against Washington. I think that's a winnable game for the Hoosiers. Then they play at Michigan State. I don't think Michigan State's that good of a team. There's a realistic shot that Indiana could be undefeated at home against Michigan November 9th. And if they beat Michigan...
Which, I mean, is completely...
Which is possible.
Believable, yeah.
We could have an undefeated Indiana at Ohio State on November 23rd. That doesn't sound real. Just say undefeated Indiana.
You could have undefeated Oregon and undefeated Indiana leading the way in the Big Ten. Things that nobody would have ever said.
That's like saying I don't know. Like, how do I equate that? It's like 28-0 Cal basketball at Oregon. Like, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting to see. I came away from that really loving what I saw from Oregon's front line, offensive and defensive line, and even the defensive line missing Jordan Birch in this game.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's reminiscent of 2021 when they were 100%. Out there at Ohio State, and Kayvon Thibodeau was a late scratch. And
him and Noah Sewell.
Yeah. I mean, that one we all were like just absolutely crying into our hands when that game got underway and we found out all that news, and then they go out and win. But I thought Oregon's front line offensively did a fantastic job against what was billed as the best defensive front that Oregon's faced all season, possibly one of the best defensive lines in the country. And they gave Dylan Gabriel all sorts of time to throw. Now, they loaded up and they did pretty good on stopping the run right through the middles, but Oregon did an all right job of finding room on the edge to just provide enough running that then supplemented them being able to go downfield when they had those opportunities. But Gabriel had time. He was not pressured. Mm-hmm. And this offensive line for Oregon has really turned around in the last couple of weeks after kind of a shaky start to the season, which was what everybody was referencing going into this. And they looked really good. I mean, I was very impressed. I kept thinking, Gabriel has all sorts of time back there. He was just able to find the open guys and make high-quality passes.
They also didn't blitz a ton. I think I was a little bit shocked on that. Like, Ohio State didn't blitz, and maybe it's like one of those things where they saw Dylan hit a couple of deep shots and they like had to back off a little bit. But it felt like they didn't give a lot of pressure. Give credit to the offensive line. Like, I think, what was it, 7 sacks through the first 2 weeks?
Yeah, something like that.
No sacks the last 4.
Yeah, they've really turned it around.
Really, really have turned it around. The offensive line is starting to look like the offensive line that we expected coming into the season. Yes, they lost a lot of pieces on the offensive line, but they also like built a really, really good offensive line unit just based on depth from last season into this season. A lot of those guys that played a little bit last year had elevated roles this season, and it's just starting to work out. On the other side, defensive line, like I thought Mateo Uyunglele had probably his best game.
Yeah.
Like he looked really, really good out there. He filled in for Jordan Birch exceptionally well, and holding Quinshon Judkins to just 11 carries, 23 yards. Huge. Huge. I mean, that is the guy that they went out into the transfer portal and they got to improve their run game, and they shut him down.
Yeah. And, I mean, everybody was thinking after what Ashton Jeanty came in and did to Oregon early in the year.
Okay.
Like, I mean, comparing any other running back to Jeanty is just fool's gold 100%, right there.
100%. But it wasn't like Oregon had a bad performance against Jeanty. He had a few breakaways. And you could make the argument if Patrick Herbert doesn't fumble the ball, then like Jeanty doesn't have that 70-yard run, and he doesn't have the 180-something yards that he had against Oregon.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. Jeanty he's a mutant. I'm not going to sit here and be like Travis Hunter and just be like, oh, he's a good running back. He's not great. No, he's great. He's phenomenal.
If I had that many touches, man, what would I do? Jeez. I don't know. You'd probably be injured.
That would be like that was like the worst take. He was like, he's just another good running back. We've seen good
that. We haven't seen it since Barry Sanders, what he is doing. And,
Were you even alive when Barry Sanders was in college?
Not in college, I don't think. I think he was still in the NFL by the time I was born.
Like, Barry Sanders has been out for a long time.
But you would think that Deion Sanders might educate Travis Hunter about who Barry Sanders is, right? Like he should know, right?
Barry Sanders.
You look him up already?
Yeah. 98 was his last year of the NFL. He played in college.
89. Okay, so I probably was born, but I would have been all of like 5-6 years old. 4, 5, 6.
88?
Somewhere in that. 88, I was 5. I turned 5 that year. That was my brother's birth. So, yeah, I mean, he played in the NFL all throughout my youth.
I think that's just the wildest transition is Barry Sanders' second season to third season. So his second season, he had 603 yards, 9 touchdowns. And then all of a sudden, 88 comes around, and he has 2,628 yards, over 2,000 more yards the next year. And he goes from 9 touchdowns to 37 touchdowns.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We got to get to a break here. We'll kind of put to bed this Oregon game. I mean, we'll probably let it trickle back into the conversation some next hour as well. But Oregon now has a short week. They turn around. They're playing tonight. I know that feels weird. It's another Friday game, and our attention has been on getting ready for the show, getting ready for Roseburg football tonight. But lo and behold, there's college football tonight for the Oregon Ducks as well. So we'll take a look at that. Is this a trap game for the Oregon Ducks? What do we expect? And we'll put to bed some thoughts on this Oregon team going forward. Next hour, we're talking Beavers. We are not just an Oregon Duck fan show, although I know you probably think that. But we'll talk Beavers next hour with Ryan Harlan from BeaversEdge.com. Tough loss over the weekend for Oregon State. What's the mood in Corvallis? We'll be talking about that coming up in about 10 minutes from now. Don't go anywhere. More of the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving coming up here on The Score.
With a Score 92.3 FM, 1490 AM news update, I'm Ashley Claiborne. Roseburg City Manager Nikki Messenger's job may be in jeopardy. During Monday's City Council meeting, Councilor David Moore asked to consider the termination of Messenger at the next council meeting, October 28th. According to City Attorney Jim Forrester, a decision around Messenger's termination will likely happen in an executive session. You can get the complete story by picking up a copy of today's edition of the News Review. On Wednesday, Douglas County Commissioners issued a proclamation at their weekly business meeting calling on all citizens of the county to observe the month of October as National Month of Community Service and to observe Make a Difference Day, October 26th. Make a Difference Day Douglas County is still in need of volunteers. For more information and to sign up to volunteer, follow a link with this story online or call 492-3523. You can get more details as well as complete local news coverage at 541radio.com. In sports, it's Football Friday with a lot of action on the radio tonight. Roseburg Indians on the road to South Eugene for a showdown with the Axe. With 3 games left to play, Indians are running low on opportunities to improve their postseason resume. Tonight's game starting at 7 p.m. Tune in for live coverage at 6:45 on The Score, 92.3 FM, 1490 AM. Also on the radio, the Sutherland Bulldogs up against a tall order tonight as they face number 3 Siuslaw Vikings. That contest gets underway at 7 from Florence, and you can tune in for coverage at 6:45 on I-101 FM. Also coming up tonight, number 2 ranked Oregon Ducks have traveled to the Midwest to face the Purdue Boilermakers in a Big Ten matchup. That game underway at 5. Tune in for coverage on News Radio 93.9 FM and 1240 KQEN. Partly cloudy tonight with 42 expected for a low. Then tomorrow, sunshine and a high in the upper 70s. News and information 24/7 at 541radio.com. I'm Ashley Claiborne, and this is The Score, 92.3 FM, 1490 AM.
A stove from Fisher's Hearth & Home will keep you toasty warm during the cold season. A new addition from Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center would love to be kept warm too. Hi, I'm Barbara from Fisher's Hearth & Home, and we are proud to sponsor the Saving Grace Pet of the Week.
Hey everyone, this is Sin from Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center. Perry the dog has been with us for almost a year now, but we know his forever family is out there somewhere. This sweet, affectionate guy is just waiting to fill your life with love and joy. Imagine Perry by your side. Whether it's enjoying your morning coffee on the porch or snuggling up at night, he'll be your constant source of comfort. Perry loves long walks and exploring new places, turning every stroll into an adventure. Come meet Perry today. You just might be the one he's been waiting for.
Whether it's a wood, pellet, gas, or electric stove, indoor or out, Fisher's Hearth & Home has the right stove for you. Call our family at 541-672-0306. For a cozy companion to be by your side and enjoy the fire with you, visit Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center in Roseburg or visit savinggracepetadoptioncenter.org.
Covering the latest buzz from the gridiron, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Welcome back here as we wrap up hour number 1 of our program. Knight Jarecki, along with me, Joey Keeran, here from the Score Sports Closet. We're hanging out. We're talking ball. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show for you here on The Score, live and local sports talk here in the Umpqua Basin. We'll be talking some high school football coming up in hour number 2 as we get ready for the Friday Night Lights coming up tonight, but there are other Friday Night Lights coming up tonight as well. As the Oregon Ducks are headed to West Lafayette, they're already out there, in fact, and they'll be playing the Purdue Boilermakers in what is another Big Ten matchup. Night, as we get ready for this one, it just feels obvious to call this a possible trap game, but you know what?
Yeah.
Dan Lanning has done a fantastic job of getting his team and his coaches on the same page, ready to go for games ever since he got here, it feels like.
Yep.
I don't feel like there's been a moment that's really been overwhelming for them. And so, like, I think the proof is now in the pudding. Like, yeah, there's been games where maybe a decision has gone awry and it might, that things didn't go their way, like against Washington last year. But I don't think they've ever been overwhelmed or unprepared for the moment. So I think we need to believe that that's going to be the case this week.
Yeah, I think the thing is that, like, we've seen Ohio State lose to Purdue before in a trap game. That was under Urban Meyer, different circumstance. And college sports has certainly changed a lot with NIL and transfer portal and just the way that recruiting is nowadays. But at the end of the day, like, it's a short week. You're making a trip across the country to West Lafayette, Indiana. Purdue, new quarterback this week. Ryan Brown last week came in for Hudson Card. And against a good Illinois team, who I think is the toughest team left on Oregon's schedule moving forward. He went 18 of 26, 297 yards, 3 touchdowns. And he also ran the ball 118 yards. Like, those are good numbers against a really good Illinois defense. They pushed Illinois to the very end. They lost in overtime 50-49 on the road. So, new quarterback, some momentum, coming back home. It's the battle for shout because both teams play shout at the end of the third quarter.
What?
You didn't know this?
I didn't know that Purdue did that.
Purdue did it first, but they play the wrong version. That's my take.
The wrong version?
Yeah, like they don't play like a version by like Otis Day and the Knights.
Huh.
Like it's like they do shout, but it's like a different version than like the Ducks put
Yeah,
out.
yeah. I'm trying to think.
Some people think that Oregon stole shout from Purdue.
But come on.
But
I mean, we got some good connections there.
Yeah, but like if Animal House is filmed at the University of Oregon, I feel like Oregon had it first, right?
Yeah. I think the ties are a little bit deeper there. Interesting. I did not know that.
So it's the battle for shout.
There's Knight Uretsky's The More You Know moment of the Umpqua Basin
What should we call it?
Tailgate
The bout for shout? The bout for shout?
Ooh, good one.
Yeah,
here we go.
That could be like a rivalry name.
Okay, here we go. I think we got something rolling here. We got some brainstorming going. All right, we got to get to a break here. I think I think this is great for Oregon because this is their first road game in Big Ten territory, where it's a true conference road game. I mean, the first one was UCLA, but that's a Pac-12 game. So they kind of get to ease into it before having to go to Michigan and Wisconsin later in the season. If it was either of those games this week, I might have a little bit more level of concern. But I think against Purdue, I like this matchup for Oregon going into it. All right, well, we will go ahead and take the break. We will come back. We will get hour number 2 underway, talking some Oregon State Beavers with Ryan Harlan from BeaversEdge.com. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be back after this here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show presented by BTB Moving. Hour number 2 right around the corner here on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
For your Score Sports update, I'm Knight Jarecki. Well, it's a football Friday with high school and college football coming up tonight. Starting in the prep ranks, the Roseburg Indians are on the road to South Eugene for a showdown with the Yaks. Roseburg is looking to end a 3-game skid and jumpstart their push towards the postseason. With 3 games left to play, the Indians are running low on opportunities to improve their resume for the playoffs. Tonight's game begins at 7 p.m. You can tune in for live coverage starting at 6:45 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. You can also watch online at 541radio.com. It's a tight race for a playoff spot at the 3A ranks, and Douglas, Sutherland, and South Umpqua are all right in the thick of it. The Sutherland Bulldogs are up against a tall order tonight as they face off against number 3 Sayus Slum. The contest gets underway at 7 p.m. from Florence. You can tune in for coverage starting at 6:45 on I-101 FM with Dan Bain on the call. The South Umpqua Lancers are hosting Brookings Harbor, and Douglas welcomes in Coquille. Both of those contests also kick off at 7 p.m. In 9-man football, the number 2 Oakland Oakers host number 8 Myrtle Point Pacific, and Glide heads to number 7 Lost River. In 8-man football, number 3 North Douglas hosts Prospect Charter Butte Falls, number 9 Camas Valley heads to Riddle, Young College travels to Chiloquin, and Glendale visits number 4 Cross Point Christian. And finally, in 6-man football, Days Creek looks to upend number 1 Powers, and the Elkton Elks are on the road to number 7 North Lake for a 2 p.m. kickoff tomorrow. Check out the entire schedule and scores online at 541radio.com. In local college sports, the UCC volleyball team hosts Lane in a South Region battle at 6 p.m. And coming up tonight in college football, the number 2 ranked Oregon Ducks head to the Midwest to face off against the Purdue Boilermakers in a Big Ten matchup. That game gets underway at 5 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 3 p.m. on News Radio 93.9 FM and 1240 KQEN. And the Portland Trailblazers finish up the preseason tonight against the Utah Jazz at 7 p.m.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs.
It's the NFL on Sports USA, and we're in Hollywood as the Las Vegas Raiders leave the desert and come to Los Angeles to battle with the Rams. The tradition of the Raiders D lives on in Robert Spillane and Max Crosby. Stafford and the Rams let Tutu catch and leave the rest for Kyron Williams.
Delay handoff to Williams, straight ahead. Touchdown, Los Angeles!
It's the Raiders at the Rams, this Sunday on Sports USA. On your home for the NFL, The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Are you a renter? Do you know that for the price of a pizza, you can purchase insurance to protect your life's possessions? Your landlord's insurance won't cover your belongings in a fire or theft. Make sure to protect yourself and your valuables. Buy renter's insurance. It covers your belongings, provides liability protection, and may pay for additional living expenses such as hotel bills or restaurant meals if a covered loss forces you to temporarily move out. Renter's insurance is affordable. It often costs less than $20 a month. Ask your insurance agent or company about multi-policy discounts when purchasing renter's insurance. The Division of Financial Regulation has a shopping tool to help you compare renter's insurance policies. Go to dfr.oregon.gov and type renter's insurance into the search bar. Spending that pizza money on renter's insurance will protect you when you need it the most. This message brought to you by the Oregon Division of Financial Regulation, the Oregon Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
Local sports talk in Douglas County. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. Fridays, noon to 2, right here on 92.3 FM KWRZ Canyonville and 1490 AM KSKR Roseburg. We're The Score, Douglas County's home for sports. It's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving. We're setting up shop, so pop open the cooler, pull up a seat.
Who wants to have some fun?
Let's talk some pigskin.
Joey's just interested in giving me another heartbreak, another heart attack, another day where I'm considering jumping off my balcony. He's wearing the grass is damn green in Eugene shirt again. Joey, you did not learn.
I don't care about your health.
Joey just might as well jump off the balcony.
Might as well.
From the Score Sports Closet, it's the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show.
I forgot to mention what shirt I did end up wearing to the game, because apparently that's things we need to concern ourselves with nowadays. I actually saw that other people were wearing the same shirt. I was pretty dang impressed because it's from 2009 or something like that, when Oregon hosted USC on a Halloween blackout game, and they had shirts that was like a skeleton Grim Reaper guy throwing up the O, and it's welcome to Autzen Stadium, and on the back it says where teams come to RIP.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
A blackout game, black shirt, this is a good one.
So that's what I think of. So when I was telling you, during COVID, there wasn't sports on, so I watched a lot of old Oregon games, and that was one of the first old Oregon games I watched was that Oregon USC game, Halloween blackout game. Oh, what a good game that was.
It was a great one, and that was great atmosphere there too. And a lot of fun. And so that's the shirt I wore, but I saw a TV broadcast or a clip, or maybe it was on the recap videos that Oregon football puts out, and saw somebody throwing up the O, and I was like, hey, we wore the same shirt. All right.
Not bad.
Nah, I'm not the only person that still has that buried in their drawers somewhere. So, well, we've talked a lot about the Oregon Ducks and their big win over Ohio State last weekend. We want to flip the script and cover what's going on up in Corvallis. Unfortunately, the tenor of things there at Oregon State. Not quite the same level of excitement right now after a tough loss on the road last week for the Oregon State Beavers, dropping a game against Nevada. 4 turnovers in that one. To talk more about it with us, we welcome into the program from BeaversEdge.com. It is Ryan Harlan. Ryan, my man, how's it going today?
It's going good. You absolutely nailed it on the head right there. I mean, injuries are a part of the game, but to the extent that the Beavers are dealing with, this is new even for me.
Yeah. We've got I think Knight has got a ton, but like we've been talking about this, and I hadn't really until obviously seeing the score of this last week's game, and then kind of talking with Knight a little bit. Like we knew it was going to be a different type of season for Oregon State. But I never really felt like the kind of mood around the team had gone to maybe a pessimistic type of attitude about this season. And it really feels like things are maybe kind of at a bit of a turning point for the program as they make their way through this kind of hiatus where the Pac-12 doesn't really exist, but it's still there, and we're kind of all looking towards the future. I think we both have been very curious to find out exactly kind of what the mood is like in Corvallis right now.
I would say, like, if you take out the week against Nevada, kind of early on, start of the season, and even during fall camp, it's been relatively like, hey, what's certain is what we have in front of us, and what we're going to do is, what we have based on the schedule and the guys that we're going to go out with. We're going to go out there and compete at the highest level. That's kind of what Trent Bray has kind of been emphasizing, and really, I think a lot of the players and coaches have kind of just bought into Bray's philosophy on a lot of things of just focusing on the task at hand and doing their job. Now with Nevada, it's a little, I would say a little bit changed. It's more of, they're like, hey, injuries happen. Injuries are a part of the game, but like, we still are going to go out there and compete and do our thing. And despite that, it's always the next man up mentality. So I'd say it's relatively optimistic, but like losses on the road, especially that loss, definitely is, not a great sign, going into this week, at least, where this is kind of a game where I think, the Beavers need to have it because the back half of their schedule, it's tough sledding if they can't get healthy on the defensive side of the ball in particular.
Mm-hmm. Ryan, you talk a little bit about the injuries in this game, but at the same time, yes, Giovanni threw 4 picks, but 35 first downs, most since 2012. 12 successful third down conversions on 16 attempts, 348 passing yards for Giovanni. I mean, in hockey, we talk about a deserve a win meter where you may lose the game, but it feels like you deserve to win. Did it feel like a game where Oregon State dominated the game and lost the game just because of the injuries and turnovers?
Yeah, that definitely is the best way to describe it. I mean, 300 passing yards, the most that Giovanni McCoy's thrown all season. A lot of those came when they needed to get those yards when they were down by a couple scores against Nevada there, but also on the ground game too. It showed that Anthony Hankerson can pick up the workload that Jam Griffin is left behind with his injury, and he's expected to miss an extended period of time. But yeah, like you said, 4 turnovers. Like the way I look at that, it's like 4 turnovers is still 4 turnovers, regardless. There's a lot of good things they did, especially offensively. But like my biggest concern is the defense. When you have to throw in Andy Alfieri, no disrespect to Andy Alfieri at all, your 5th string tight end to play outside linebacker, defensive end, you're in for a long night. They could not stop the run to save their lives. Like I've said all this week that like Nevada could have gotten away with not even passing the ball at all. And then once they figured out how to attack that Oregon State front, particularly running the ball to the boundaries on the right and left side, like it pretty much was just a tall task to ask for the amount of depth that they had available to them that weekend. Now this weekend they hope to get a couple guys back. We'll see how much that makes a difference, but it was kind of just one of those things where it's like 353 yards, 8.4 yards a carry given up on the defensive side of the ball. It's not gonna win you a lot of games if you cannot stop the run.
Mm-hmm. Certainly the injuries have been pretty brutal. But moving forward, like you have UNLV coming in this week. This is a team that's been ranked in the top 25 this season. They only have one loss overall, and it was a close loss. What's the overall vibe, I guess, with the fans, with the students on campus? I know that you've been around Oregon State for a while, and traditionally around this point in the year, maybe you're bringing in a Utah, or maybe you're bringing in an Arizona State. Is there still a lot of excitement with a team like UNLV with their resume coming to town for a homecoming weekend?
I'd say there's a fair amount of excitement, especially with the fact that you're going to have a lot of fans coming back for homecoming weekend. Now, with the way that last week went, I would say the excitement is still somewhat there, but a lot of fans are a little more timid going into this weekend, just because I know I've repeated myself multiple times with injuries, but it's really the injury part. It's that sort of it's really, I think, that factor. But I would say that there's still a fair amount of excitement there. I know a lot of people have even looked at kind of where the state of the roster is, and they're like, yeah, it's not the greatest, but I'll still show up. I'll still be there. And that attendance, I think, in this point in time for Oregon State is huge, especially you're, currently, at least right now, not until 2026, but currently a two-team conference, and that support is still important going forward, despite what's kind of transpired on the defensive side of the ball.
Talking with Ryan Harlan here from BeaversEdge.com. Covering Oregon State football up there. Ryan, we talked about kind of the turnovers and the 4 interceptions thrown there by Giovanni in that matchup. And, I wonder, has there been talk this week about we went into the season with a couple of different options at that quarterback spot. It ended up being Giovanni that wins it. Have they talked about maybe making any changes at that spot there? Has there been any pressure on, Giovanni to that somebody could take over for him?
Bray got asked about that on Monday and kind of recommitted to Giovanni being the starter. There is a reason why he won the job out of camp, but I don't think there's really anybody that's kind of close to him right now that I think gives them the best option to win outside of him, or at least right now, given the other side of the ball. But I wouldn't be surprised if McCoy struggles and the game gets out of hand on Saturday. They go to maybe Ben or Jabari for that spot there. But I really do think, though, that he's their guy going forward, and he's also been dealing with injuries of his own. I clearly in the Nevada game he was not 100% there with his health. It showed. Both Bray and Gunderson said that was kind of a non-factor, but Nevada also wasn't necessarily world beaters on defense either. That's the other thing with the amount of yards the Beavers were able to pick up on the ground. So they could have ran the option game with them, but I think you roll with him at least for now, and if struggles happen, maybe you go to somebody else. But the offense right now, I think, is starting to find their stride a little bit. It's just the defense. There ain't much right now that they can do if the defense can't really stop the run in particular. So. It was asked, and so I think it's a fair thing. You can chalk up 2 of those turnovers not necessarily being McCoy's fault, but I look at turnovers as 4 turnovers. It's still 4 turnovers. You're not going to win games like that, regardless. But yeah, they're gonna roll with him until otherwise specified by Bray.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the defense just struggling, and one way that you can help the defense out is just keeping them off the field and keeping the offense on the field, and that's certainly what Oregon State's done this season with the time of possession. You mentioned a little bit earlier Anthony Hankerson, his success with Jam Griffin going down. Just how impactful has he been for the team and just being able to control the ball, control the clock, and how impactful is he going to have to be with maybe Giovanni, I should say, struggling a little bit with the interceptions? How big is he going to have to be to try to keep the defense off the field and really just help out the offense?
And really the way that I looked at it going into this season with both Hankerson and Jam Griffin was they were kind of running back 1A, 1B. They both do things very similar, but they're also better at certain aspects in their game, or a little bit better than the other. But Hankerson can't really do it alone either, and so having freshman running back Saladin Allah get more of an impactful role, saw a little bit of that against Nevada, as well as another freshman, Cornell Hatcher, who I know Coach Ford is really high on, running backs coach, and then also Jake Reichel too, to kind of shoulder that load, to spell Hankerson and give him some rest when needed is going to be big too on top of that. But I feel like in terms of a game where you have a high-powered offense on the other side of the field, the run game is going to be a big factor if Oregon State wants to pull out a win on Saturday.
Talking with Ryan Harlan from BeaversEdge.com, covering Oregon State football for us. And you mentioned, pulling out a win on Saturday, and I was going to just kind of jump into that. It's we've beat that horse on last week's kind of downfall there. Now looking to try and turn the page. And obviously Oregon State's a great team at home. On the road is where they have had struggles. As the team gets back home, as the players kind of get a chance to kind of put last week to bed, what are you sensing around the team, and what are you kind of outside of maybe the running game, which you just acknowledge is going to be needed for this week? What other things are kind of keys to victory this week for Oregon State?
I think the biggest key is defensive health. If you can, if you can get the Thomas Collins back, the Tavita Pome back as well, and looks like the Beavers may have Gyrese Goodman back as well, one of their backups at the inside linebacker spot available to them this weekend. So if they can get a little more bodies along that front, I feel a little more confident in their chances to stop the run. But really their biggest thing is discipline. Discipline has been huge. It's been kind of what's killed them at times, and there's a couple plays I look back at in the Nevada game in particular where lack of discipline in the run game allowed for a big score from Brendan Lewis, 66-yard touchdown that he had. I think just keeping their eyes in front of them and trusting what they see on the defensive side of the ball, and to just do their job instead of trying to do too much, I think is going to be really critical for them, especially defensively. And then for offense, like I said, with the run game, but also getting the passing game going early too. The passing game hasn't quite gotten up to speed like the run game has, but that's exactly what Oregon State's going to do. They're going to run the ball. They're going to try to set up play action down the field. And I really want to see more of Jermaine Terry involved in the passing game. He's been involved in the past couple games, but also Darius Clemens, Trent Walker, Jeremiah Noga involved a little bit more in particular, and try to take some of that pressure off of McCoy to do it all on himself as well. So that's kind of what I need to see a little bit there. But I think defensively is something with the health of this front is something I'm going to be paying attention to headed into Saturday.
Well, we are excited for it. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff, late one there at Reser Stadium. You've probably been to a lot of games at Reser Stadium, Ryan, and 7 o'clock kickoffs at Reser. I mean, that's when the wild stuff happens, right?
Oh yeah, no, of course. Like that you enjoy those type of games, no matter being a reporter or being a student. Like some of my best memories have been those late kickoffs. Particularly, I'm thinking of Utah with the Luke Musgrave blocked punt. That was a classic one there. But yeah, it's the first real true night game that Oregon State has had this season. I mean, if you technically count Colorado State being around 5 o'clock, kickoff there, sure. But this is the first true night game test, and that's where I think that could play a little bit into the favor of Oregon State this weekend.
Well, we're definitely hoping that the fans will bring it there at Reser. They can definitely have an impact in the game, and looking forward to seeing this one. Kickoff just after 7 o'clock on Saturday night. We're going to have coverage of Oregon State Beavers for you right here on The Score, starting at 5 o'clock tomorrow. Mike Parker and the crew will have the pregame starting then and take you all the way to kickoff just after 7 o'clock. The game will be here on The Score. You can watch it on the CW, and giving us some insight into what Oregon State has going for it right now, Ryan Harlan from BeaversEdge.com. Ryan, if you go back and watch the video YouTube stream simulcast of the show, I apologize. I, for some reason, added an N to the or a D to the last portion of your last name for some reason. I noticed
you're good.
I noticed it as soon as I put the graphic up on the screen. I was like, oh, where did that come from? So my apologies. But Ryan Harlan from Beavers Edge joining us here, man. Really appreciate all the insight in the program. Enjoy the game on Saturday, and we'll probably get a chance to catch up with you as the season wears on.
Yeah, no, appreciate you guys having me on. You're all good, by the way. Like I said on the it's happened before. Actually, one of my credentials for the Corvallis Super Regional in 2022 had that happen. So it's all good.
I'm not alone. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate him. You can find him on X, on Twitter, however you want to describe it there. He is Ryan Harlan. You can find him posting stuff there on online. Ryan_Harlan, HARLAN. Only, no, there's no D at the end. Ryan_Harlan7 on X, and follow his updates on what's going on with Beavers, man. Hey, have a good one there, Ryan. Thanks so much for the time, bud.
Yeah, thank you. You as well. And
all right. Appreciate him calling in and being a part of the program here with us, getting us caught up on the Beavers. It's an interesting matchup. We'll kind of take a look at that one. We'll take a look at what's going on in college football here for the weekend as well. And we've got tickets to give away. We'll do that as well. Tickets. That's right. We got tickets to that Beavers game.
Joey, what do they win?
Tickets. We'll give those away when we come back here on the
call in 673-5551.
Yeah, let's do that now. That's a great idea.
Please call in. We're giving away 2 tickets. A really good UNLV team coming to town. 5-1 this season. 7 p.m. kickoff. You have plenty of time to get up from Roseburg to Corvallis for that game.
Yeah, late one. Just, make sure you're drinking your Red Bull, and then you'll be good to go.
Yeah, I mean, Reser Magic at night. Please call in.
Could be very much fun.
Yeah, 673-5551. And those tickets could be yours, so please call in.
It's that easy. So we'll take the break. We'll be manning the phone lines here for the rush of phone calls, and 541-673-5551 is the number to call in and be a part of the program with us here. Thanks again to Ryan Harlan for the time on the program, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the Beavers, that matchup. We'll get some thoughts on that, and then we will dive into what else. There's a lot of big matchups coming up in college football here this weekend. We'll touch on it all when we come back here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving here on The Score. Let's get you a score update with Knight Jarecki.
For your Score Sports Update, I'm Knight Jarecki. Well, it's a football Friday with high school and college football coming up tonight. Starting in the prep ranks, the Roseburg Indians are on the road to South Eugene for a showdown with the Axe. Roseburg is looking to end a 3-game skid and jumpstart their push towards the postseason. With 3 games left to play, the Indians are running low on opportunities to improve their resume for the playoffs. Tonight's game begins at 7 p.m. You can tune in for live coverage starting at 6:45 p.m. on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM. You can also watch online at 541radio.com. It's a tight race for a playoff spot at the 3A ranks, and Douglas, Sutherland, and South Umpqua are all right in the thick of it. The Sutherland Bulldogs are up against a tall order tonight as they face off against number 3 Sayus Slum. The contest gets underway at 7 p.m. from Florence. You can tune in for coverage starting at 6:45 on I-101 FM with Dan Bain on the call. The South Umpqua Lancers are hosting Brookings Harbor, and Douglas welcomes in Coquille. Both of those contests also kick off at 7 p.m. In 9-man football, the number 2 Oakland Oakers host number 8 Myrtle Point Pacific, and Glide heads to number 7 Lost River. In 8-man football, number 3 North Douglas hosts Prospect Charter Butte Falls, number 9 Camas Valley heads to Riddle, Young College travels to Chiloquin, and Glendale visits number 4 Cross Point Christian. And finally, in 6-man football, Days Creek looks to upend number 1 Powers, and the Elkton Elks are on the road to number 7 North Lake for a 2 p.m. kickoff tomorrow. Check out the entire schedule and scores online at 541radio.com. In local college sports, the UCC volleyball team hosts Lane in a South Region battle at 6 p.m. And coming up tonight in college football, the number 2 ranked Oregon Ducks head to the Midwest to face off against the Purdue Boilermakers in a Big Ten matchup. That game gets underway at 5 p.m. You can tune in for coverage starting at 3 p.m. on News Radio 93.9 FM and 1240 KQEN. And the Portland Trail Blazers finish up the preseason tonight against the Utah Jazz at 7 p.m.
Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering statewide services, such as packing and unpacking, loading and unloading, piano moving, cleaning services, and 24-hour emergency services. BTB Moving is an affordable, veteran-owned company here to help with your next move. Call 541-315-0122 or find BTB Moving on Facebook. That's BTB Moving for all your moving needs. Ready, aim, and shoot. It's time for the Share Your Shot photo contest presented by Waldron's Outdoor Sports, Big O Tires, and The Score. You could win a stunning new rifle from Waldron's Outdoor Sports plus a $400 gift certificate from Big O Tires. Simply upload your photo of this year's deer harvest to 541radio.com or drop off a photo at Waldron's Outdoor Sports. Remember, this is a photo contest, not a Biggest Gamer rack. So smile and share your shot. Brought to you by Waldron's Outdoor Sports, Big O Tires, and The Score.
Talking prep football, Beavers, Ducks, and the NFL. This is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
Well, we are back here in the Score Sports Closet, and we actually, as we were going back on the air here, having somebody call in. So the only way we have a way to take phone calls is by putting you on the air. So if you're on the phone line right now, if you just called in, please don't hang up. I hope you're calling for Beaver tickets. Who's on the phone line with us here?
Tom.
Tom, are you calling in for Beaver tickets?
Yeah, you betcha.
All right, Tom. Look at that. We got ourselves a caller. Hey, Tom, appreciate it. We've got a pair of tickets. Are you a big Beavers fan, Tom?
Well, sure.
for the price we're asking, he's a Beavers fan today.
Well, no, I'm a Beaver fan. Yeah.
Well, that's great, and we are excited to send you to that game coming up tomorrow, if that all works for you.
You bet it does.
All right. Well, Tom, we appreciate you calling in. I will put the tickets for you up at our front desk. Do you know where the radio station offices are located here at the News Review building?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll put the tickets up there for you at the front desk when we get off the air. Just come by and pick them up before 5 o'clock, and you're all good to go this weekend.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for calling in. We appreciate you tuning in and calling in and winning tickets from us.
Well, you bet. Go Bees.
All right, go Bees there. Tom calling in. Appreciate that. Tickets will be waiting for you there, Tom, at the front desk.
Let's go.
It. There we go. We got Tom calling in to win some tickets. It's that easy.
It's really not hard.
You may be put on the airwaves, but, doing live radio with us here. But nonetheless, you're going to be on the air and winning tickets. So let's see. Today's date, the 18th.
Also, feel free to call in 673-5551 if you have any takes for us, if you want us to discuss anything.
Maybe I should have asked Tom to break down the Beaver game for us on his thoughts there.
Yeah. But honestly, please call in if you want. You're happy to chime in.
We're here to do the, Dan Patrick, they take phone calls, Jim Rome, all the shows on throughout the day. But, you're fighting with the national audience and, Jim Rome, you got to have a take and not suck and all those kind of things. We're We're just low-key chill guys right here in Roseburg looking to talk some sports. So if you want to talk some football with us, we are here to do so and oblige with you there.
If you want to talk NFL, we could talk NFL for you.
We could do that.
We could talk college football. We could talk high school football. I mean, there's a lot of great matchups happening in Douglas County.
Yeah.
You got a couple of D.C. Residents here breaking down some football.
Yeah, so we will we'll get into some of that high school stuff here between the two of us, but if you want to change the topic, you're more than welcome to call in and do so at 541-673-5551 is the number to the Score Sports Closet here. But, looking at that Oregon State matchup, we just had Ryan Harlan on there from beaversedge.com. I looked at those numbers on Saturday or Sunday about what Oregon State did, and it just blows my mind that they put up huge offensive numbers, but
4 turnovers.
couldn't come away, and that's what kills your opportunities to make those huge offensive numbers pay out.
Yeah.
And so you leave opportunities to score out there on the field. UNLV, this feels like a huge matchup here for Oregon State, and as much as I want to say that I would think that OSU has a shot at trying to get back on track here this week, if the injury issue does not go away, which it's hard to think it will in just a week's time, like they've got a lot of players dinged up there, it just feels like Oregon State's going to be playing catch-up in this game.
Mm-hmm. It does. I mean, UNLV has had a really great start to the year, and they've had some drama too, right? They had the quarterback that they had starting their games after 3 games. He steps away from the program because he got promised allegedly an NIL deal and it didn't come through. Their offense has been electric without him. They've done a really great job. Their new quarterback, Hajiq Malik Williams, I think is how you say it. He is electric. He has been phenomenal for them. They put up over 40 points in each game. Their only loss during that stretch is against a good Syracuse team who only has one loss this season. And these last 3 games with the new QB, 59-14 against Fresno State. Lost 44-41 at home in overtime against Syracuse. Again, a Power 5 team that's only had 1 loss so far this season. And then they just won 50-34. They were leading by a lot more in that game. That score a little bit closer because Utah State scored 13 points in the 4th quarter and made it a little bit closer. But at halftime of that game, it was 41-7. So this is a UNLV team that has really ran through their opponents recently. They're a really good offensive team. Barry Odom's a very good coach. This is a UNLV team that's looking to win against Oregon State. And then guess what they have next week? They have Ashton Genty and the Boise State Broncos coming to town to Las Vegas. They just announced they're opening the upper deck for that game.
Really?
They've only opened the lower bowl for like the UNLV games.
So there's your shot right there.
That's your shot.
I mean, UNLV... Well, and are they looking at, is this a trap game for UNLV as they look ahead to Boise State?
I don't think it's a trap game. This is a statement game before you go play Boise State, right? Like, this is a game to get things right. Your trap game was Utah State coming off a loss against Syracuse on the road to Logan, right? Now you got Oregon State. Then you're home against Boise State, homecoming game as well. After that, they play Hawaii, San Diego State, San Jose State, and UNR. And... That's just a very easy back end of that schedule in comparison to what you've already gone through. So these next 2 weeks are the most important weeks for UNLV.
Yeah.
This isn't a game that they're overlooking. Like, this is a statement game, especially because they're a team that turned down the Pac-12.
Yeah,
like,
that too.
They decided to stay in the Mountain West, and what has the Mountain West done? They've rebuilt the Mountain West Conference. They have 8 full-time members. They told Oregon State, no, we don't want to be in a conference with you. We feel like we're in a better position with the Mountain West.
There's a lot of interesting storylines that kind of go along with this game because of all of, you mentioned the off the field with the quarterback and all that kind of stuff with the UNLV, but then also all that conference realignment stuff that happened here throughout this season. Yeah, there's a lot of interesting kind of storylines that go into this one. Oregon State, this is what kind of surprises me here. 6.5-point underdog at home.
Yeah.
Against UNLV.
UNLV is good.
No, they are.
That's the point. That's why this is such an exciting matchup.
You don't have to sell people on it anymore, Knight. We gave away the tickets already.
Yeah, I'm not.
I
I'm not
agree.
selling people. I'm just telling you how it is. Like, it is a very good game happening in Corvallis this weekend,
and an important one.
Yeah.
I think is what really to me stands out is that this is an important game for the Beavers to not let the opportunity slip by. Because, look, I think to rebuild the Pac-12, you obviously needed to get quality teams to join the conference, and you needed to kind of start acting soon. But you also, the two flag bearers of the conference, Washington State and Oregon State, they are kind of seen as playing, like a subpar schedule because they're facing the Mountain West, right? Like you would think like, okay, if you want to be proven that you belong at a tier above what the Mountain West is, which is why you didn't want to join it, like you need to play well against the Mountain West. And I get that there's a lot of things that go on outside of your control, like injuries, but this is the Mountain West portion of Oregon State's schedule, and if you are out there not winning games against teams that elected to not join the Pac-12 and stay in the Mountain West, it's not a great look, and you've got to be the flag bearers for what this new Pac-12 is to be able to prove that, hey, look, the Pac-12 is going to be a conference that's not that far behind what the other Power Four are.
And all their remaining games are against the schools that decide to stay. Like Oregon State's remaining schedule, minus Boise State
at the end of it,
and
Wazoo,
and Cal, which is a
non-conference
game. You got UNLV, San Jose State, and Air Force. Your next three quote unquote conference games.
Yeah,
like those teams are going to have a little bit of extra motivation. And when you're going up against the dynamic offense that UNLV has, it hurts even more having those, what Coach Watson would say, owies on defense.
I'm surprised that didn't come up at all in the last week that since the last show that owies have not come up in the text message chain that I have with the coach. So Oregon State kicks off against UNLV tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, just after 7. I think it's technically a 7:10 kickoff. But you can tune in for the game right here on The Score. Pregame starts at 5 tomorrow evening, so make sure you tune in to catch the pregame if you're getting ready for it. If you're driving up to the game, whatever it may be, we'll have you covered here. You can also tune in on the 541 radio app, so if you're headed out to do other things, but you want to keep tabs on the game and you're outside of our listening area, use the 541 radio app to listen to the game and keep tabs on things there. And we'll have you covered here, right here on The Score. Now, it's also a big weekend. We got Oregon football coming up tonight, but this weekend in college football, there's some big matchups on the schedule.
No
and
they're sleeping on Indiana, Nebraska.
Young Knight Jarecki is very excited about Nebraska and Indiana.
Why wouldn't you be? This is Big
5-1,
Ten football.
6-0. That is not the Big Ten football that I think the Big Ten is excited about. Do you think that they're excited that Nebraska and Indiana are kind of carrying the torch right now into this week?
Oh, absolutely. Why would you not? Like, if you really back the big, like, we talked about backing the pack.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you be thrilled, like, if it was like 6-0 Cal versus 5-1 Oregon State? Like, that would be fun. You'd be like, wow, this is awesome. I'm so happy for those two programs.
Wow, none of that seems good. None of that seems right. Oh, if you put it into that kind of perspective, I would almost throw up in my mouth a little now.
No, actually, I need to. We need a better
because Nebraska is kind of a blue blood of college football. I know they've sucked for a long time, but
they were a blue blood.
They were, that's a program with a huge fan base.
Oh, massive fan base, and you act like Indiana doesn't have a.
No, true. I'm sure they do.
Like Indiana basketball is their thing, right?
Yes.
They've never had a football program like this.
No. They had Michael Penix there for a bit. They had some flashes in the pan.
That was the COVID year. Like, the fans couldn't completely fill the stadium.
True.
And it wasn't celebrated the same way. Now they're 6-0. Like the fan base is there. The student section, the last game, they were there 2.5 hours before the start of the game.
Look at them
buying in. People are buying in because at the end of the day, Indiana has a passionate fan base. They just haven't had the experience in football because they've been, pardon my French, bad, like really bad.
I was really scared of what you were about to say. Where's my dump button? Oh God, he hasn't figured it out yet. You can't say those words on radio.
I was gonna say something else. I just went with that. But that's how bad it's been. Like they've been dog water. Like it's not been good for Indiana football, and they finally have some excitement. I'm upset with College Game Day not going to Bloomington. This was the opportunity. I don't know if they've ever been to Bloomington, but this would have been the moment. Like Nebraska versus Indiana.
Surprise, surprise. They're going to be in Austin, Texas for number 1 Texas against number 5 Georgia. That's going to be a huge matchup. So taking a look kind of as your day goes on, you can tune in at 9 a.m. for Nebraska and Indiana and join Knight Jarecki watching that one. Your afternoon viewing could be number 11 Tennessee hosting number 7 Alabama, which could be a fun one there at Neyland Stadium. That place is going to be crazy. And then you wrap up the day. You could have. You could also be flipping to number 22 Illinois hosting number 24 Michigan. Another big Big Ten matchup there that will be interesting to watch to see how that one pans out. Then you could wrap up your day with some good football there in the evening at 4:30. It is that Texas and Georgia matchup. You do have LSU, number 8 LSU, on the road at Arkansas. That could be a good one. I mean, that screams game that's going to get weird.
Yeah.
And it's a 4 o'clock kickoff here on the West Coast, so it'll be 7 o'clock there at Arkansas.
And Arkansas, they're coming off a bye week. The week before that, knocked off top 5 Tennessee. You know that there's just going to be a bunch of rednecks out there going, woo, Pink City! And it's going to be a great time in Fayetteville.
I apologize if your car speakers are now blown. So some good games coming up this weekend. Should be a fun full day on Saturday of football for your viewing pleasure. Some good matchups in there. So get in your Oregon football tonight, or you got your Oregon State football. You can kind of catch most of Texas and Georgia, and then flip over to Oregon State on the CW tomorrow. So
that's so brutal.
It's so tune in for Oregon State football following another episode of Vampire Diaries. I don't know. I have no idea what shows are on. The Walker Texas Ranger I think they got the new one or whatever.
I just think of like whose line is it anyways? Like that's like on the CW
late night CW viewing there with whose line is it? Hey, look, I think it worked. I mean, obviously they've got other calls. It's not just the Oregon State and Washington State are on there. They got the ACC.
They have the ACC.
It works. I mean, hey, I get that on my over-the-air antenna, so I don't have to have a streaming package. I don't have to have anything. Yep. It's right there for me to watch. Like, it's easy to get.
That and Blazer games.
And Blazer games now, which I just got a free Blazer, a free HD over-the-air antenna from the Portland Trailblazers. Yeah, they're giving out 5,000 of them. I assume they're intended for people in Portland, but there was no restriction, so I got one.
Can you still apply?
Yeah, I'll get you the link.
Okay.
I mean, if they still have them, I'll get you the link.
That's electric.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, I've got a bunch of them already, but I've got other TVs. I could probably find a TV somewhere. Or my other thought is that maybe then I've got one of those. I could bring a TV in here or something, and we could hook it up to the HD antenna so we could watch Whose Line Is It Anyway on the CW while we're doing the Umpqua Basin Tailgate show. Some good college football coming up here this weekend. You talked me off the ledge a little bit on Oregon. I felt getting disrespected in the AP Top 25 this week because they only got 6 first-place votes. Look, I'm not surprised they're not number 1 in the country after beating Ohio State last week, but I thought they'd get a little bit more love. But Texas actually increased the number of first-place votes they got after last week, and Oregon picked up 6. I thought that was a little low.
I agree. Like, giving more to Texas is a little bit disrespectful to Oregon, but at the same time, like, it doesn't matter.
This week, I mean, in the grand scheme, this matters because we need something to talk about and love to talk about things that are related to, discussing and debating sports. But it doesn't matter in the fact that we're all just waiting for the college football playoff rankings to come out later on in the season. Yeah. Like, is that the reason why it doesn't matter to you?
Well, I mean, yes, but it also, like, Texas is playing Georgia this week.
So I mean, if Texas wins, they're back at number 1, even if Oregon had gone to number 1. So, I mean, if they win this week, they'll probably pick up they'll probably pick up more first place votes, and Oregon will get 3 or something.
Isn't that crazy though? Like, if Georgia wins, like, there's a situation where Oregon could be the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't experienced that, like, in quite some time.
Yeah.
Like,
I'd have to look, like,
when was the last time Oregon was, like, the number 1 ranked team? Like, 13.
Yeah,
like
I'd
10
have to
years
look
ago?
back at it.
2014, like that.
I mean, they went to the championship in 2015, January 2015, probably.
Right.
Probably somewhere in that
Oregon,
range.
2014.
Honestly, now that it's a 12-team playoff, I'm perfectly fine if they're not number one in the country. It's a target on your back that I don't know if I'd be okay if we didn't have that necessarily.
Oregon was never number one during that 2014 season.
Really?
Yeah, they were number 2 for a lot of weeks. They started
Yeah.
the season number 3. They were number 2 for almost a majority of that season.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be some good. Last week we got treated to great college football. The week before was another great week. It looks like the sport continues to giveth, and we will taketh. As college football coming up this weekend, going to be a fun one. Don't forget, Oregon football tonight. They kick off at 5 o'clock. You can tune in for pregame coverage starting in about an hour and 15 minutes from now. So tune in on News Radio 93.9 FM and 1240 KQEN. You can catch Oregon Ducks football there on KQEN here today and all throughout the rest of the season. You can also listen to the game on the 541 radio app as well. So if you don't get off of work in time to maybe make it to your TV or as you're driving home, you want to keep up to date with what's going on, KQEN is your friend here today. And they'll be kicking off before we even get on the airwaves for high school football coming up tonight. You want to talk about a team that's getting disrespected? We'll tell you about that when we come back, as we will hit up our high school football games that are coming up here tonight around the Umpqua Basin. We pack it up and get ready for kickoff as we return to wrap up the Tailgate Show here on 541radio.com and on The Score, 92.3 FM and 1490 AM.
Champion Car Wash celebrates 30 years serving Douglas County. Introducing the new Thoroughly Clean Car Wash, featuring Carnauba polish with a ceramic graphite finish and towel dry. Now offering free vacuuming and buy one get one free wash through October at Champion Car Wash.
This Veterans Day, let's salute those who have served with love, respect, and gratitude. For just $30, you can honor the veteran in your life with a heartfelt message and a cherished photo in the News Review's special Veterans section. It's a chance to show your support and admiration. Submitting your tribute is easy. Simply visit our website at nrtoday.com or stop by our office at 345 Northeast Winchester Street in Roseburg. The deadline to submit is Friday, October 25th by 5 p.m.
If Alaska is still unchecked on your bucket list, you should plan to attend On Stage Alaska, a live presentation by Holland America Cruise Line and Travel Leaders Flyaway Travel. It'll showcase cruises and cruise tours to Alaska and the Yukon by people who live there, and they'll share knowledge and experiences. And it all happens Sunday, November 3rd from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Flyaway Travel Event Center next to their offices on Harvard Avenue in Roseburg. RSVP at 541-672-5701. Hope to see you there.
A stove from Fisher's Hearth and Home will keep you toasty warm during the cold season. A new addition from Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center would love to be kept warm too. Hi, I'm Barbara from Fisher's Hearth and Home, and we are proud to sponsor the Saving Grace Pet of the Week.
Hey everyone, this is Sin from Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center. Perry the dog has been with us for almost a year now, but we know his forever family is out there somewhere. This sweet, affectionate guy is just waiting to fill your life with love and joy. Imagine Perry by your side. Whether it's enjoying your morning coffee on the porch or snuggling up at night, he'll be your constant source of comfort. Perry loves long walks and exploring new places, turning every stroll into an adventure. Come meet Perry today. You just might be the one he's been waiting for.
Whether it's a wood, pellet, gas, or electric stove, indoor or out, Fisher's Hearth and Home has the right stove for you. Call our family at 541-672-0306. For a cozy companion to be by your side and enjoy the fire with you, visit Saving Grace Pet Adoption Center in Roseburg or visit savinggracepetadoptioncenter.org.
Oregon's only statewide sports talk show wants to hear from you, Douglas County.
Sean is in Roseburg. Sean, welcome.
The Bald-Faced Truth with John Canzano is talking Beavers, Ducks, the NFL, Blazers, and more.
Go to Daryl, who's in Myrtle Creek.
Share your opinions by calling 503-417-7575.
Let's go to the phone lines. Kelly is in Glide, Oregon. Is that right, Kelly?
That's right. Hi. I can't believe you took my call.
Sports talk for Oregonians. It's the Bald-Faced Truth with John Canzano. Weekdays 3 to 6 on The Score.
To some, a baby's babbling doesn't mean much, but it does. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
From the Score Sports Closet, this is the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, presented by BTB Moving.
We're back here watching highlights from the last season that Oregon was number one in the country.
It was 2012. 2012, Oregon was number one in the country only 1 week.
Wow.
They were number two for the last 6 weeks. Beat Washington State in Seattle. Weird game there.
Yeah.
Playing Wazoo at CenturyLink Field.
Yeah.
Then home against Washington, ranked Washington team, won 52-21. At ASU, won as the number 2 ranked team in the country, 43-21. Beat Colorado 70-14. On the road in LA as the number 2 ranked team in the country, facing off against the 18th ranked Trojans, won 62-51. Shootout. Then at Cal, won 59-17. Got bumped up from number 2 in the nation to number 1. And their 1 week as number 1, they lost to number 14 Stanford at home. College game day was there, 17-14 in overtime. A couple of missed field goals.
Maldonado. Oh boy, yeah. That's why I think you understand why Oregon fans get leery when the team is highly ranked, because it just feels like the other shoe's about to drop.
Well, it makes you feel wary when the field goal unit comes out onto the field.
Yeah, that too. Because Sappington was supposed to be the guy. He was lights out at Oregon State.
Yeah, he was automaticus. That's what they called him, and he just
it's been a little shaky.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like 2010, like that was the year they went to the Natty. Yeah, they were number 1 for a majority of the second half of that season.
Yeah. It's we'll see. Hopefully we don't have that issue coming into tonight's game at 5:00 against Purdue. Who's somebody that should be number 1, Knight?
Like in what?
I figured you'd know the answer to this question immediately.
It's 2 words. Combine them together. Oak and land. Oakland.
I thought you were going to say it's 2 words. It's Oakland. It's Okers. It's the Oakland Okers.
I mean, you could make the case.
Like,
the Oakland Okers should be number 1.
Number 1 in my heart. They should be number 1 in your program as well.
Exactly. Like what are the 2A coaches doing? Like
they got an axe to grind. I mean, Oakland won it a couple of years ago. The Okers, number 2 in the latest coaches poll once again.
They lost more votes. What did they do last week, Joey?
They dominated.
I don't get how you can move this team to number 1 and then just drop them.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how that 2A playoff works out, because I mean, Oakland we know is really good.
Okay,
it looks like there's going to be some other. It could be a really entertaining.
This is my gripe. Oakland in the last 2 weeks, Oakland has dropped. They've lost votes. And what have they done? They won 52-0 and they won 44-0. You mean to tell me in 2 games they outscored their opponents 96-0 and you're like, yeah, I think this team's maybe a little bit worse than we thought. Like, what?
No, it's just other people are just the other teams, they're showing that they're better than we thought they were, right?
Joey.
It's definitely going to be
doing?
I don't know. That's
let me see.
And this is why I'm not all that eager to try and vote in some of these media polls that go around in high school, because it's like I don't know what these other teams have. I know what Roseburg looks like. I know what their opponents kind of look like in the one game I saw them, but other than that, like I don't know what's going on around out there.
So since the first game of the year where they beat number 1 Lowell, again, they beat the number 1 team at the start of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They won 42-35. Good game. That score's okay because it's the number 1 team versus the number 2 team to start the season. Since that point, they've outscored their opponents 224-19. They've only given up 19 points over the last 5 weeks.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
There's some, I mean, I'm looking at the numbers here.
They're averaging 44.5 points per game.
There's some good teams out. Now, surprisingly, Oakland's power ranking is number 7. So the postseason playoff seeding could be real interesting. 2A 9-man football, I think, is going to be quite the bracket to make your way through. I have total faith in Oakland, but bracket's going to be real interesting. We'll see how it plays out tonight because they are hosting Myrtle Point Pacific is the co-op team there, but the Bobcats come in. They're 5-1 on the year. They're 2-0 in league play. This is a battle for the league lead, most likely kind of the battle for the league championship here. And Myrtle Point, in 6 games, they've allowed 44 points.
Oof.
Oakland's allowed 54. So now Oakland has also put up 266, where Myrtle Point's only put up 145. So you got that. That is our big matchup here on the week. We got to run through our high school football schedule here kind of quickly. But
one last thing.
Yeah, hit me with it.
As we talk about teams getting disrespected, North Douglas.
Up to number 3.
They're up to number 3, but Crane's right ahead of them. Crane's 5-2. North Douglas is 6-0. What are we doing?
What are we doing here? Roseburg tonight at South Eugene. We've talked plenty about that. Douglas is hosting Coquille. South Umpqua at home against Brookings Harbor. Nice that those two teams get to play at home. Kind of big games there as they try to stay in the conversation for an automatic qualifying spot in the postseason. Sutherland's got to go to number 3 ranked Siuslaw. That's going to be a big showdown there. Dan Bain already on the road to Florence. He'll have the call for that one on for you on I-101 FM starting at 6:45 tonight. I think all 3 of those teams have a legit chance of getting into the postseason. I think at least 2 out of 3 will. I think a chance that all 3 do.
I hope they all do.
It would be great.
It'd be great. I mean, they all deserve it.
Yeah.
And then the thing is, there's going to be a lot of clarity. I think the one team that's kind of like on the bubble right now is South Umpqua because they have the 2 losses.
Yeah.
But they also have Sutherland.
They've also got games that could
Douglas
work their way in.
coming up, so go either way.
They've got a chance to work their way into that postseason with those games on their schedule. We talked about Oakland. Glide on the road at number 7 ranked Lost River. You kind of look at the teams on paper and you think maybe, there could be a good chance here. Obviously, Lost River getting votes in the coaches poll. So good program and going to be a tough test having to go on the road there. But if Glide could pull off a big win here, I think it would be an upset. But I think they got it. I'm going to give them a shot. I think they're going to have to play their best game of the year, though. You got 8-man football. Camas Valley and Riddle's one I'm excited about. I think that could be fun. I also think Camas Valley could run away with it. I'm not sure exactly, but I think it could be fun. Glendale's at number 3 ranked Cross Point Christian, or they're number 4, excuse me. North Douglas is number 3 in that 1A 8-man poll. They are hosting Prospect Charter Butte Falls. Yoncalla is at Chiloquin. Tonight, you've got number 1 ranked Powers hosting Days Creek. On paper, the records look even. Days Creek's got a huge challenge in front of them here today. And then tomorrow, you've got Elkton at number 7 ranked North Lake for a 2 o'clock kickoff there. I think some really fun matchups on the schedule. I think we're looking at a good chance to have 2 out of the 3 3A teams, Oakland, Camas Valley, North Douglas. I think we're at least at 6 teams in the postseason, 7, 8, maybe even up to 9 if we could really get. I think we got a chance to get as many as 9.
And there's 16 teams in Douglas County.
Yeah, I think we could get as many as 9, but I think a lot of things are going to have to go our way to get there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Be huge for Douglas County.
It'd be a lot of fun. And on that note, we are excited about high school football coming up tonight. And we got to start getting ready for it.
Yep.
We got to start
making the trip up to Eugene.
We got to start hitting the road here in just a moment. So we will wrap things up here. This has been the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show, brought to you by BTB Moving. Thanks everybody for tuning in and joining us. Tom, enjoy the Beavers game coming up tomorrow, and thanks for calling in and winning tickets. For Knight Jarecki, I'm Joey Keeran here on the Umpqua Basin Tailgate Show. Whether it's across town or across the state, moving is always a chore. So let BTB Moving help with your next move. BTB Moving is a labor-only company offering